Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 90s quiz presented to you by Quest SGG SCC for you today. Now, all the very best to all the participants, and we would go ahead and move with the quiz by presenting to you the rules of the quiz. The rules goes as follow. First, there are 20 questions in total. Each question is worth 1 point. Questions 5, 10, 15, and 20 are star marked questions. In the case of persistent ties, time will be taken into consideration. Answers to the submitted form to be submitted through Google Forms. Please refrain from Googling. There might be Google traps. Moving ahead to the very first question. This gene is a vital molecule that plays an important role in the formation of many different structures in developing embryos. It comes from a family of genes, and the other two members in this family are named Indian and Desert, respectively. However, this third member was named after a video game character. Which character is this, whose design was inspired by the album cover of a music icon? Moving ahead to the next question, question number 2. Characterized as a fantastic dream ship of undulating form in a cloak of titanium with brilliantly reflective panels reminiscent of fish scales, Dash is often praised for its mercurial brilliance. Located alongside the Nervian River, the interior of the flower is designed around a large light-filled atrium and is famous due to the randomness of its curve designed to catch the light. Inaugurated in 1997 by King Juan Carlos I of Spain, the museum is hailed as one of the world's most spectacular buildings in the style of deconstructivism and has been named as one of the most important to be completed since the 1990s in the World Architecture Survey. Which structure do you think are we talking about? Or you could just fill in the blanks. Moving ahead to the third question. This object became a huge hit among children in the 90s because of its fascinating functionality, affordability, and colorful designs. What is most ironic about it is that it is was actually invented by a teacher and then later discouraged by teachers themselves because it caused pain to the children. We all came across this object when it took the form of a mosquito repellent in the recent years. Identify the object being talked about here. Moving ahead to the fourth question. Artist Nelson Shanks, who painted the portrait of President Bill Clinton, snuck something in the painting which is a reference to what proved to be disastrous for Clinton in the next election. What is it? Moving ahead to the fifth question. While explaining the inspiration behind a certain technology invented in 1994, the inventor said, quote unquote, I used to play Go, a strategy board game, on my lunch break. One day, while arranging the black and white pieces on the grid, it hit me that it represented a straightforward way of conveying information. It was a eureka moment. Although the initial purpose of this technology was to track vehicles during manufacturing, it became popular outside the automobile industry due to its fast readability and greater short storage capacity. One factor that contributed greatly to its spread was its manufacturer's decision to make the specifications publicly available so that anyone could use it freely. Identify the technology. Image of the game is given on the next slide. Moving ahead to the sixth question. Dash was invented by a research engineer employed in the oil industry. One of his big breakthroughs was developing an algorithm that uses seismic waves to create detailed subsurface maps that oil companies use to find potential drill sites. The next surprisingly even bigger breakthrough came when he tweaked this algorithm to create Dash, something that changed the recording industry forever. What is being talked about here? Something that has overshadowed real talent in today's time, yet a revolutionary tool? Moving ahead to the seventh question. As of October 2019, this olive green cardigan is locked in a safe in the home of its legal owner. It has a mysterious stain in one of its pockets, which could be chocolate or vomit. There's a missing button and two cigarette burns. What is so special about this sweater slash cardigan? Moving ahead to the eighth question. This is a 1996 animated movie adapted from a novel by X, which is based on her own experience. It was the first movie by this production house to have used xerography to make production less time consuming and the drawings more complex. Moreover, while we assume that most of the characters in the movie are white and black, they're actually black and gray because the animator believed white would have been too bright on the screen and wouldn't have looked good in the snow. Identify the movie and X. Moving ahead to the ninth question. In 2021, the auction of a one of a kind NFT was announced, which features something that changed the entire world when it was developed in the 90s. This token will be sold at a standalone auction and will consist of four elements, including a digital poster, which is 9555 lines long and has a graphic representation of the creator's signature. Identify the artifact being talked about here. Moving on to the 10th question. This popular 90s sci fi movie, which is loosely based on the Marvel Comics, is responsible for a huge increase in the sales of a product that was used in the movie. A special coating was applied to this product in the movie to limit reflection, which meant removing the logo. Without the logo, nobody would know what brand the product was. A previous line was edited in the movie where a character says, "That's why they call them dash dash." Identify the movie and the product. Moving ahead to the next question, that would be the 11th. In the late 90s, a ship was carrying a large shipment of dashes along with other objects. A massive wave occurred near the southern coast of England, which rocked the ship 60 degrees to one side and then 40 degrees to the other. Because of this, about 4 million of these were lost, out of which a little over 3 million were light enough to float. Some decades later, more than 40 locations were mapped in southern England where people found these dashes, which included slippers, flowers, and even dragons. Interestingly, this spill has also helped provide insight into plastic pollution. What entity that was spilled from the ship is still being found on people today? Moving ahead to the 12th question. This company became infamous for pirating music in the late 90s in a seemingly prophetic way to usher in the new century. The peer to peer website was soon a staple for young people to consume free digital content. However, the payback which came later disrupted the company's sleep as it had to indemnify the dues for copyright infringement. Ironically, the founder of the company was also embroiled in a similar controversy with the founder of a tech giant in its early days. Which company is being talked about here? Moving ahead to the 13th question. In the early 90s, a Russian cosmonaut found himself in his dark space station with nothing to do. To preserve his sanity and not kill himself out of boredom, he took a couple of handy things aboard to keep himself occupied. In his 196-day trip, he used his incredible combination to do something that is considered to be a quote unquote classic activity. In doing so, he gained a distinction that immortalized him not just in space history, but in dash dash history. What did he take to space and what distinction did he achieve? Moving ahead to the 14th question. This sport that originated in the United States is currently popular as an entertainment industry job and also a method of transportation. Interestingly, the US Marine Corps had tested this as an urban combat military exercise in the late 90s program. The idea was that conventional US military power would be limited in an urban setup with a large civilian population, and there would be a huge potential for collateral damage. American tanks and munitions would be useless in such an environment. The purpose of these trials was thus to maneuver inside tight spaces in order to detect tripwires and sniper fire. Additionally, it could also assist disaster relief and humanitarian aid. Identify this Olympic sport. Moving ahead to the 15th question. The 15th question says that Arnold Schwarzenegger is often credited as the inspiration behind this launch. The story goes that he saw a certain military vehicle drive past his set, which impressed him so much that he personally lobbied GM to make a version of the car for the public market. The request was granted but was short lived as the car was discontinued in 2010. Identify this vehicle and its supposed inspiration. Moving ahead to the 16th question. According to the Urban Dictionary, to feel dash is to feel down, depressed, and angry at the universe and yourself. It is based around a certain character whose name is said to have been taken from the former professional baseball player Vincent quote unquote Dash Jackson. The term is also used to describe someone who has all the potential in the world and never meets his potential. However, this may be an unfair association since Jackson did not blow his career but actually injured his hip in 1991. What is X? Moving ahead to the 17th question. In the 1990s, a particular iconic symbol of India was on the verge of extinction. A new lease of life came through in the form of a certain conductor from Australia. The result was a friendship society connecting other conductors and an event that called forward artists and communities to partake in sustaining the symbol. As a result of these efforts and the event that last happened in 2017, this symbol still survives as of today. What slowly fading symbol are we talking about here? Moving ahead to the 18th question. This novel by a popular author was targeted by several critics when it was released in 1999. The book was a radical departure from the writer's usual innocuous and age appropriate writing. The harsh criticism further led to an obscenity charge. The case turned into a cause celebre when stalwarts like Mulk Raj Anand and Vijay Tendulkar were brought in court to defend the novel and its literary merit. The amiable author finally got an honorable acquittal. Identify the author here we are talking about. Moving ahead to the 19th question. This tradition was followed as a carryover of British rule. Many might be surprised to know that it took almost 50 years for the government to wake up from the colonial hangover. This clearly showed the colonial era mindset of Indian politicians. Another reason was that it gave the affected parties a night to work out the changes. It was only in 1999 that the then NDA government changed the ritual. However, some people argued that this was done in order to check the performance through dash dash, which was not possible earlier due to colonial practice. Fill in the blanks and tell us what change in ritual is being talked about here. Moving ahead to the last but not the least question of the day. A certain food company ran market research in the 90s, which cost them around $50 million to alter the design of their product. Although this was a high cost motive, it helped them produce fewer scraps and also influenced the move towards the increased integration of food science in the industry. This alteration also helped the product become easier to consume as previously there were complaints of children getting hurt while eating this. Subsequently, the change allowed increased seasoning and the taste was hugely appreciated. What innovative change and product are we suggesting here? This brings us to the end of this quiz, which makes you liable to go ahead and fill in and submit the Google form that you are attempting the quiz on. Thank you for participating in the quiz and being a patient and an amazing quizzer. Have a nice day and all the best.